Welcome in. It is a Monday edition of the Sports Huddle on SEMO ESPN Radio. Eric Shawn and the lead singer, the Mike Rennick Band. Mike Rennick in studio, inviting you to be a part of the festivities. Here's our EBOMD Huddle hotline number. It is 573-334-1220. 573-334-1220. The Huddle hotline powered by EBOMD. It is a Monday. That means the Love Shack will be stopping by. We will crank up the Monday Marty Party a little bit later on, so hold on for that. And as we recap what happened over the weekend, we say hello to Mr. Michael Rennick. How are things?
Hello.
Oh, wait.
Oh,
now you're turned on.
Am I allowed to talk now?
You're allowed to talk. Sometimes I get squirrely over here with the buttons.
Yeah. As you're wearing your Charleston Fighting Squirrels pullover there.
In hopes that they will actually play a game today.
No, weekend was good. It was one of those weekends, which I know you don't get these very often, where there's not a lot that you have to go and do, and you get a chance to kind of just get some things done around the house. And man, I had a chance to keep an eye on a lot of different sporting events, from the Cape Catfish to the NCAA, regionals, to the Cardinals, to all kinds of stuff. So it was good, and the weather was beautiful. Good weekend.
And I tried to keep up with literally everything when it came to
it's hard to do.
The regional college baseball, obviously. I'm invested in college baseball. It's a great sport, and it is fun this time of year. Upsets galore. We've still got two teams that I would think pique our interest here as fans of SEMO. Murray State's still alive. Arkansas Little Rock miraculously is still freaking alive. So we got to get into that. We'll talk about that. But what's interesting, the top two seeds in the NCAA baseball tournament went down in flames yesterday. Both of the top two seeds are gone. Wright State eliminated the number one national seed, Vanderbilt. And then Wright State would go on to lose 6-0 to Louisville in the regional championship. So Louisville eliminates Wright State, who had a really great run. But they eliminated Vanderbilt. Now, since they went to the current format of this bracket in 1999, Vanderbilt now becomes the very first number one overall seed, Mike, to not even make it to the regional finals. It had never happened before.
Wow, never happened before.
No national number one seed, the number one overall seed in the country in the entire tournament, had at least failed to get to the regional final.
Man.
And then yesterday, the Roadrunners of Texas San Antonio won the Austin Regional, defeating the number 2 overall seed, the Texas Longhorns.
Crazy. I know you're going to get deep into this, but this had that, for me, it had the NCAA basketball feel,
Yeah.
Just captivating, as you said, even if you're kind of a casual fan of college baseball, let's say, it just was so exciting. To see all the, the 4 seeds that were winning games and eliminating teams and, comebacks and late inning heroics and, just all over the place. And there was so much of it, you just couldn't, most people couldn't keep up with everything.
Right.
If you're going to try to follow any of it. But
if you've got the if you got ESPN Plus,
yeah, it makes it a lot easier.
And you're flipping around, and
right.
They do a good job if you're watching a particular broadcast, that they keep the scores up in the upper right-hand corner so you know what's going on. It says elimination game, where they are. Okay, so-and-so advances. The Florida Gators are eliminated. They keep you updated. They did a pretty good job of keeping you updated. But if you thought that was exciting, we have 6, count them, 6 college baseball regional winner-take-all games today.
What time's the first one start?
2 o'clock.
Because I was looking up the Murray game and Little Rock are later in the day.
Correct.
They're more in the evening. So, yeah, I mean, just, geez, NCAA probably couldn't have written the script any better. It seems like it's, and I know this word gets tossed around, but an historic regional as far as the upsets go, and these, again, these 4 seeds doing what they're doing, and it's been a lot of fun to keep track of.
And selfishly, for me, following everything over the weekend, now you've got all this excitement today, and I'm not going to be able to watch any of it because I'm going to be in Charleston. They've got a 5 o'clock doubleheader today, the Squirrels. That's when Murray State plays. Murray State plays Ole Miss in a winner-take-all game in Oxford at 5. And then Little Rock, 8 p.m. tonight. I may be able to catch, some of that on the, after the doubleheader is over, maybe able to catch some of that Little Rock game. So it's Murray State, Ole Miss at 5. And then Little Rock and LSU at 8 o'clock. Now, if you're wanting to tune in, Murray State Ole Miss is only on ESPN+. LSU Little Rock, ESPN+, but also ESPN2. So it'll be on the Deuce. And it gets going today, ESPNU, at 2 o'clock. It's North Carolina and Oklahoma. Then you've got 3 5 o'clock games. USC, Oregon State, Murray State, Ole Miss, Wake Forest, Tennessee, because Wake Forest beat Tennessee to force this game yesterday. And then Little Rock defeats LSU, and now they get a rematch with LSU at 8 o'clock tonight. And then you've got Southern Miss versus the Miami Hurricanes. That's also at 8 o'clock.
I know you'll broach this more with Marty here, but we talked a bit about it. I mean, where has this come from with Little Rock? I mean,
no one could have predicted it. You put Chris Curry, their manager, their head coach, on a lie detector, and he would tell you, "I didn't think we had a chance to do anything like this."
It's really just, you kind of leaves you speechless. I mean, just to see. To see them come to Capitol Hall Field with the final regular season series of the OVC schedule and just get obliterated by SEMO in those 3 games. And then
SEMO outscored them 43-9.
43-9, and they
in 3 games,
and they basically, Little Rock, needed a loss by, was it Western Illinois, to get into the OVC tournament,
correct,
as the lowest seed, and then they just go on this historic run. Now it's unreal.
They have the lowest RPI in the field going into the tournament. One of only 2 teams that had a losing record going into the NCAA regional. And it looked like it was going to be really quick for Little Rock because they're playing at LSU, Baton Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
They had their best pitcher on the mound, Jackson Wells. And LSU blanks Little Rock. Opening game of the regional, 7-0. You're like, okay. So then it's an elimination game against Rhode Island. Little Rock destroys Rhode Island 22-10. Then they face 20th-ranked Dallas Baptist. Now, it's a real team.
Yeah.
They beat them 8-6. Then they rematched with LSU last night in Baton Rouge, under the lights. And they beat LSU 10-4, beat them handily. And they get LSU again. So it was shut out by LSU. They've reeled off 3 wins in a row. I don't know what they're going to do as far as pitching. I don't know if Wells can come back that quickly on short rest because normally you would say, okay, if the guy didn't have professional aspirations, maybe he'd give it a go, and maybe he will. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I know he threw 129 pitches in the NCAA or in the OVC tournament,
right?
Game, and that was the only one that he pitched. And so I'm trying to see how many pitches he threw. He threw 103. He only lasted 5 innings, gave up 3 runs. So,
and what game was that?
That was the first game on Friday.
Against LSU.
So he'd have Saturday, Sunday. He'd be basically pitching on 2 days' rest after he threw over 100 pitches. And he probably is going to get a chance to play some professional ball, so it's going to be up to him whether or not he wants to run it back out there. So I don't know what Little Rock has as far as pitching. LSU's top 2 pitchers, I don't know if they're going to go back to them or not. Maybe they will. I don't know. It's going to be fun, though, to see if Little Rock can somehow win a regional final. And then you've got what Murray State has done. Now, they went to the Oxford Regional, so Ole Miss. And in Game 1, they beat Ole Miss 9-6. Then they came back and beat Georgia Tech 13-11. So they're 2-0. That means somebody's got to beat them twice. So they matched up with Ole Miss again yesterday, and Murray State had no pitching.
Yeah,
I mean, they got destroyed yesterday by Ole Miss, 19-8. But if you are Murray State, they can freaking swing it. I mean, they've got an excellent offense, so you've got a puncher's chance. I don't know how many home runs Ole Miss hit in that game where they scored 19, but, I mean, they're among the nation's leaders in homers. I mean, they hit a bunch. At one stretch, they hit 3 in a row off one of Murray's relievers. So I don't know what Murray State's got in terms of pitching depth, but that is going to be a 5 o'clock game here as the Racers and the Little Rock Trojans. Never know. And as far as the Missouri Valley Conference goes, they win regionals. Last year it was Evansville.
Right, yeah.
2 years ago it was Indiana State. Prior to that, Dallas Baptist won. I mean, they've the Missouri Valley Conference. Now, Dallas Baptist isn't in the Valley anymore, but their recent history of playing in regionals, they are winning regionals. So you got to give Murray State a puncher's chance tonight. I don't know about Little Rock, but I'm not. I mean, I wrote Little Rock off going into the OVC tournament. Man, I saw them firsthand. They look lifeless.
Hey, Little Rock, they've got one name, Angel Cano. That's all you need to know, right? I mean,
go back and look at the
3-game
series against SEMO. Angel Cano, their first baseman from the country of Colombia. First time I've ever broadcast a game where SEMO's playing somebody who is from Colombia, and he did not have a hit in the 3 games against SEMO. Not a hit. He was over. And then in the OVC tournament, he came up with a couple of big hits. I think he did have a hit against SEMO when they played in the tournament. But it's not like, I mean, going into the OVC tournament, they had lost 13 of 14. They were 1-13. And then you look at a team like Vanderbilt, the number 1 overall seed, they rolled through the SEC tournament. They had won 9 games in a row entering a regional where they're hosting, and they get bounced. Yet Little Rock is the coldest team in the nation, seemingly. How many teams lost 13 of 14 entering their conference tournament? And then all of a sudden, here they are in a regional final. It's unreal.
Well, they were sub 500, and North Dakota State, I think, was
correct
out of the Summit League. Was sub 500 as well.
Those were the only teams in the tournament.
Yeah, that were sub 500. It's like I said, it's kind of, you can't really put into words with the run that they're going on. It's unbelievable. And I just think, I mean, I know you see upsets in the NCAA basketball, but this is being done over a series, so to speak, and baseball is the only sport you will see this in. It's just it doesn't happen in any other type of sport that a team like Little Rock that is that bad throughout the regular season, can just figure out a way to manufacture some runs, and I mean, like that inning last night they were down 3-2, I think it was. They worked the bases loaded, and here comes Angel Cano.
Yeah.
And I mean, he fouls off like 2 or 3 probably potential strike 3 pitches, and then shoots one down the right field line for a double, bases clearing double. Then they bunt a run in. I mean, that's fun stuff to watch, and none of their, you look at their stats when all these guys come to bat, they're hitting 240, 260. I mean, there's just nobody that had any type of season, but yet here we are whenever it really matters, and they're putting it together.
I could not be rooting.
It's great for the OVC,
yes, and I
mean,
understand that Murray State. I don't root for Murray State for things,
sure,
but I am rooting for Murray State tonight. Yeah. I would love for the Racers to beat Ole Miss. I would absolutely love it. Then you got a couple of mid-major teams moving on to the Super Regional, and I trying to think. I don't know how many OVC teams have won regionals. I mean, obviously Tennessee Tech did in 2018, went to the Super, and were a win away from getting to Omaha. You've also got elimination games today at the Women's College World Series, college softball. And the way that it sets up, that starts at 11 a.m., and they'll just, boom, move right through it. You've got Tennessee and Texas. Okay, Tennessee advanced yesterday, and we'll get into that one just a little bit more, but they've got to beat Texas twice today in order to go to the College World Series Championship Series, which will be 2 of 3.
Right.
So they've got to win twice because they've got a loss. Texas does not. And then the 4-time reigning champion, Oklahoma, has to beat Texas Tech twice today. Now, they have scheduled for the if necessary game. So, in other words, Tennessee and Texas go at 11 a.m. That is on the big ESPN. And then at 1:30, if they need to play that second game, they will. I don't think that they're going to move up the Oklahoma-Texas Tech game. It's probably just going to stay at 6 o'clock, regardless of if they have to play that second game with Texas and Tennessee. But Oklahoma-Texas Tech is scheduled for 6, and then if they need game 2, 8:30. And the reason Tennessee is there, they were playing UCLA, and they were 1 out away from a win. They're up 4-2. And UCLA's Megan Grant hit a 2-run homer in the 7th inning to tie the game. And there's such a celebration at home plate. She came home, and everybody was jumping around and dancing around. She missed home plate. Missed home plate. And then one of her teammates noticed that she missed home plate and pulled her back toward home plate, and she stepped on home plate. Well, Tennessee sees this, and they immediately protest with the umpires and say, hey, she got physically pulled back to home plate. She missed home plate. So they went into a 13-minute review, and it is very complicated, and I want to explain it to you. So it was 13 minutes that they went to the review, and they were all huddling up. And I'm going to read you the first-hand account here. After the lengthy review, it was determined assisting a player to go back and touch home plate is not reviewable. And since it was not reviewable, Tennessee's coach was trying to file a formal protest. They would not let her file a protest because they found out that it is not reviewable. So to go look at the video and to have a 13-minute delay as far as the umpires go, why didn't
they know at the beginning?
Why didn't the umpires know it's not reviewable?
Yeah.
But there were rules people there, and it was all determined, and they have the rule book. if the play was reviewable and it was deemed that Grant missed home plate, the Bruins season would have been over. That was the thought process. After the game, there was a pool reporter able to talk to the head umpire, and I'm going to read it to you. Following the celebration at home, okay, here's the question to the umpire. What transpired following the home run? Umpire responded, following the celebration at home plate, the umpires got together to determine whether or not the runner touched home plate. The umpires observed that the runner returned to touch home plate, but it wasn't clear if the runner was assisted by a teammate. They said that was unclear. In an effort to get the call right, umpires decided to initiate video review to help determine what occurred. Okay? What made the play not reviewable is the next question. A runner being assisted on the base paths by a teammate is not on the list of reviewable plays in the NCAA softball rulebook. Appendage G in the softball rulebook does not allow for a challenge of this particular rule, which states no offensive team personnel other than base coaches and base runners shall touch a runner until the runner contacts home plate. Final question. What would the outcome have been if the play was reviewable? And now this is where I had to go through 5 different write-ups on this to find this statement. This came directly from the umpire. Because a home run is considered a dead ball per Rule 12.17.3.4 on an initial offense, a warning would have been issued to the offending team, and it would not have affected the score of the game. So it just would have been a warning.
Okay.
So I don't know why they went into a 13-minute review. They didn't know the rules.
Yeah.
And everybody had to get together, and they had to explain the rules to everybody.
And have be on the same page as to what we're going to say. And
now, if you believe in karma, Tennessee ended up winning the game in extra innings. So they're still alive, and UCLA is eliminated. But some dramatics and some major controversy at the end of that game. But the key thing is this. Because a home run is considered a dead ball, a warning would have been issued to the offending team, and it would not have affected the score. They still get credit for the home run.
Wow.
And they ended up losing anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you see that a lot. You know, you see those dog piles at home, and I've been curious at times because you know at some levels you're like, don't touch him until he he or she like hits home plate, But they obviously
and sometimes you see that
they
where people
touch him beforehand.
They will
Right.
pull their hands back until the player hits home plate. Then the celebration,
right? And then they get him. But
I was not watching this game at the time. But, man, oh, man, if you were watching and you had to sit through that 13-minute delay, and I bet you had to listen to the announcers talking about, well, this could be the rule, and here's what they're looking at, and what is the rule if you pull someone back toward home plate? Did she miss it? I'll bet you the announcers did not know every stitch of that rule. I wouldn't have.
No. I mean,
Who knew it would have been a warning had she not touched home plate?
Yeah.
Or that it was not reviewable. The umpires didn't even know it wasn't reviewable. Or why did they go review it? It's not reviewable. They didn't know. But they were told.
Now everybody knows.
At the site, right.
Yeah.
But you see something that maybe you've never seen before.
Yeah.
You watch these games. So Tennessee will try to continue its run today. And Little Rock and Murray State still alive. And we'll talk more about it with Marty Mischow coming up.
Hey, real quick, do you like the on the baseball side? Do you like the, I guess, safety base at first base?
I do.
Yeah, I was kind of maybe the baseball purist in me was kind of like, it doesn't really jive, but
they've been doing it for like kids for a long time.
Right, and
if you're involved in youth softball and baseball, you have seen the safety base for a while.
Now, that said, I was watching an NCAA regional with softball the other day, and I did not see the safety base. I could have sworn that they had it in
now they've got it in baseball.
I know.
I really haven't been paying attention watching these softball games. Do they not have it?
I don't think they do. And I thought that they did.
That's interesting.
I thought that they typically did. But, there was a close play at first last night in that Little Rock LSU game.
Yeah.
And Little Rock runner, took the safety base. Now, do you, as a runner in college, do you have to take that base?
Yes.
You have to take that base.
You have to hit the safety base.
So if you don't...
Unless a fielder, like the first baseman, would cross over into foul ground because of a bad throw,
right,
then you can hit the regular base.
Now, if you're turning to go to second base on a double, you can take the inside base.
Absolutely.
But if it's a play at first, then you've got to at least make the attempt to take the safety base.
Correct. And we've seen it. We saw a challenge. I don't even know who it was against. Someone challenged SEMO, and I think it was at Kappahaw. Might have been in that Little Rock series. And they were saying that SEMO's runner did not hit the safety base. They were saying he hit the regular base and should be out on a close play. And they went back and reviewed it, and he did hit the safety base.
Well, you've seen a zillion plays over the years where the runner, maybe it's a bunt, maybe it's a little, just bloop little hit right in front of the plate. And, the batter is basically, trying to run into fair territory, or they're in fair territory, basically, without the safety base.
Right.
Trying to be an obstruction for the catcher or whoever to try to throw them out. That obviously eliminates that, altogether. It gives a clear running lane, for the runner, and obviously a clear throwing lane for the catcher potentially. So,
and there've been a lot of
no injuries, that sort of deal.
There've been a lot of controversial plays because you're supposed to run in foul territory. There's a lane.
Right.
If you watch in baseball, there's a lane that is chalked up the first base line. You're supposed to run there. But at the same time, when you get to the base, you have to cross over into fair territory.
It's in fair territory.
The base is fair.
Yeah.
And so there have been arguments over the years where a throw, maybe from the catcher or the pitcher, hits the runner, or the first baseman, it appears that the runner interferes with the throw or the throwing lane, and then there's controversy. But at the same time, if you're the runner, you have to cross into fair territory to get to the base.
Yeah,
now theoretically you do not, because that safety base is in foul territory.
Right. Yeah, the only time, it seems like the runner, no one ever uses that lane, or no one ever used that lane unless they're rounding it to go to second base.
Yeah.
So now that takes that whole issue out of it.
And just think about the physics of a right-handed batter putting the ball in play and running.
Yeah.
His first however many steps
is in fair
territory.
Yeah.
And so, but you've got to, at some point, adjust, or if a throw goes down to first base and it hits the runner and they deem that you weren't running where you're supposed to run, you're out.
So that's the rule. So that if you, let's say you clearly beat the play at first, but you don't use the safety base,
you're out.
You're out.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. What did you think of, or I don't even know if you watched it, but we had we alerted everyone on this show last week that Sunday's Cardinal game in Texas was a Roku selection. And so Roku had the game exclusively yesterday. First of all, I wonder if there were any Cardinal fans that never could find it. Secondly, did not know it was a Roku game, or found out it was a Roku game, and if you have a smart TV, it takes you just a couple of seconds to download the Roku app, and it's free. You don't have to sign up for anything. Did you get a chance to tune in on Roku?
I did. I like those games way better than the Apple TV, only because we've got Roku. Although, I've not seen an Apple TV broadcast, but I've heard it's pretty darn spectacular as far as I don't know if there's any new camera angles or different things like that. But anyway, I did watch it on Roku. Super easy to find.
Yeah.
Thought it was neat that they had Chip Carey on, and they kind of split the broadcast, with the Rangers side. So
I can't even remember the guy's name.
Yeah.
He's a color analyst. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
fine. But he was able to get you up to date on what's going on with Texas.
Right, yeah.
We're not following the Rangers.
Sure. No, it was easy to find, and just it was like you're watching a normal baseball game on FanDuel Midwest or whatever it's called now. Yeah, I liked it.
And trying to think.
I think we're going to see more and more of that.
It is not the last Roku game, by the way. The Cardinals will be on the road at the end of this month. Okay? They will play a 3-game series in Cleveland. It's a weekend series, 27, 28, 29. That's after they play 4 against the Cubs. And the Sunday game, and apparently these Roku games are only on Sunday, but the Sunday game between the Cardinals and Cleveland, Sunday, June 29th, 11:05 first pitch, Roku.
Okay.
And as far as Apple TV, the first game of that series in Cleveland is Apple TV.
Is it?
Friday night. So the Apple games are Fridays. Roku games are Sundays. And for the foreseeable future, those are the only 2 games that you're going to have to stray from your normal viewing habits with Apple TV Plus and Roku.
Were there some YouTube games a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like these better than,
they
than
don't.
that.
Yeah. Now, Saturday, June 14th in Milwaukee is an FS1 game. So as we get a little closer to that, we'll remind everybody that game's on FS1. But, if you are a regular baseball viewer, you've tuned into FS1 to watch Major League Baseball. Unfortunately, as we, of course, say, well, that's baseball.
Yeah.
We explained to you how bad the Texas Rangers offense has been. I gave you the stat that in the last 12 games, they are hitting 173. They are 28th out of 30 in runs scored per game. And in the last 12, they're averaging 2.4 runs per game. And in their 2 wins against the Cardinals, they score 11 and 8. 19 runs in the 2 losses, and the 1 win for the Cardinals, 2-0. Now that's more like Texas Ranger baseball.
Yeah, you kind of set it up on the tee for them there, Eric, to unleash the bats against the Cardinals.
But we're talking about how good the Cardinals offense has been,
right,
and gave you all the statistics and more categories than just batting average. And then Eric Fedde, who had been scuffling, he had not had a quality start since May 9th. And he gave the Cardinals a quality start yesterday, and they still lost.
Yeah, he'd still maintained a pretty decent ERA. I think just over 3, I think, is what it was before yesterday. And I think he's pitched much better on the road than he has at Busch. So kind of hoping to, work some of his magic and get a win to win the series yesterday, but not to be. Man, Texas has some really good pitching. They get the offense straightened out. I think there's a good chance, they could still have a potential playoff berth.
And they've got some good offensive players.
Sure.
They're just scuffling right now. One of the reasons why I picked them to go to the World Series, man. I mean, their pitching, if it's healthy, and that's always a caveat with Jacob deGrom, and they put Nathan Eovaldi on the injured list. So he's out for 15 days, but they don't think it's anything long-term with Eovaldi, and they certainly need him. So I'm not going to rule out the Rangers because I don't trust anybody in the NL West, and I understand that includes Houston. But they're not the same Astros team. They just don't have the horses that they've had. That doesn't mean that they are not going to win the West. but I still am not writing off the Texas Rangers. And as far as the Cardinals go, I want to run this past you before we get Marty in here. The Cardinals have 28 games in 29 days in June after today. Okay? Today's an off day. They only have one more off day in the month of June. So it's 28 games in 29 days. And my question to you is it time with all of these games back to back to back? Sonny Gray's 35. Miles Michaelis is 36. Fetty, 32.
Mm-hmm.
Is it time for the Cardinals to go to a six-man rotation and get Matz in there?
I knew you were going to bring that up.
But I mean, you're talking about one more off day after today for the month of June. I mean, there's a reason in baseball they refer to them as the dog days of June.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth. I mean, they flirted with that a little bit earlier in the season, I think, because the way
and they used it.
The way some of the off days were falling at that point, and I mean, as well as he's been pitching, and but then you fight that. Well, gosh, do we need him to be that stopgap in the bullpen? That he has been, but I don't know. You just don't see a lot of teams going to that, do you? I mean.
Personally, I don't care what other teams are doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I think it makes sense for the Cardinals.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it makes sense, but just doesn't seem to be what they do anymore.
Now, since they are clearly not totally resistant to a six-man rotation, since they did do it earlier this season, might it be a little bit easier of a decision to make here, considering that you're going to be grinding here, man?
Yeah.
And you look at the schedule, it's Kansas City, then it's the Dodgers and Toronto before you head out on the road, and that's going to be a 7-game road trip, 4 in Milwaukee and 3 in Chicago against the White Sox. And, oh, by the way, do you remember last week me kind of letting you know, hey, I know a lot of people may not be keeping an eye on the Brewers, but I am.
Mm-hmm.
They've now won 7 in a row.
Yeah.
It's a 7-game winning streak for the Brewers, and they are only 2 games in the loss column behind the Cardinals, who are 4 back of the Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, this is a kind of a crucial stretch. I mean, Royals coming in, they've been, good all season. Obviously, the Dodgers.
Just took 2 of 3 from the Yankees.
Did you say Minnesota?
Then Toronto comes in.
Oh, Toronto. Okay. So yeah, you got to really kind of regroup here. I'm glad they're at home. They've obviously played well at home, so maybe that'll help.
This is a 9-game homestand.
Yeah,
here.
it's probably one of the biggest stands of this early part of the season. That you've slipped back a little bit. You need to get that momentum back and do it at Busch.
Andre Palante, Michael Lorenzen, journeyman.
Lorenzen is.
Yeah, he can be good and he can get hit. I mean, you never know what you're going to get with Lorenzen. All right. Want to see what Marty has to say about
Bring him in.
All right.
Bring him in.
Time for the Love Shack. We will crank up the Monday Marty party when we come back on the Sports Huddle. Welcome back, Sports Huddle, SEMO ESPN, 1220 AM, 93.5 FM, and online at SEMOESPN.com. That music means it's time to crank up the Monday Marty party. The Love Shack, Marty Misha joins us on the EBOMD Huddle Hotline. How was the weekend, Marty?
Man, Eric, I said I had some notes written down. I think you covered about everything I wanted to talk about, but we can talk about it more. Hey, Mike, what's up?
He just stepped out, Marty. He has abandoned the show in our time of need.
Okay, well, he deserves a break, but I'm sure he's not getting a break.
Man, he's going right up to a meeting. That's where he's headed.
I did spend part of my weekend, Saturday afternoon, in Jackson, watching the quarterfinal playoff series, Game 2 between Jackson and Parkway South. and that was a barn burner, man. I don't know if you read about it, Eric. And it was a packed house, and it was hot, and you talk about a tension-filled game, and Jackson kind of lost two heartbreakers in that 2 out of 3 series.
I guess that 3-1 game, the defense kind of let him down, right?
Yeah, I wasn't at that game, but I read about it, and then I was at Saturday's game, and, man, Jackson had, not to take anything away from Parkway South, Jackson looked like the better team. Shoot, they got college signees all over the field, and Jackson had to have left 12, 15 runners on base. They were hitting shots all over the field. And they're atop of they were the visiting team on the scoreboard. Parkway South scratched across a run, 1-0. And Jackson, I believe, was the top of the 7th, had a run in, 1-1, bases loaded, nobody out, and didn't score again in that inning. And then and Parkway South had a similar deal. And then in the bottom, Jackson had runners on all game. And then in the bottom of the 8th, Parkway South scratched across a run on a legit hit. And they were a darn good team too. I mean, their pitchers held Jackson down both games. But you talk about a big old crowd. I heard it was a huge crowd Friday too, and Saturday I was there, and it was a big old crowd there. But it was some exciting baseball.
Well, I'm going to be there on Wednesday. The Squirrels are going to play a doubleheader there against the Jackson Tribe. So I've been to that park before, but it sounds like it was hopping.
Oh man, it was great. Yeah, now the Tribe. So the Squirrels, that'll be playing the Tribe, I guess, senior team too, right?
I'm guessing. I'm not familiar with the Jackson Tribe. We'll find out. I don't know if that's. I doubt that's their American Legion team. I know in the COVID year, many of the teams played Babe Ruth baseball that summer because you could still play, but you couldn't play anything affiliated with American Legion. So we haven't played a game yet. The Squirrels, 6 games rained out, so I'll find out more about the Tribe when I get a chance to chat with Michael Minner.
The reason I mentioned it because I had heard, because Kate this year, after having a senior Legion team last year, and they had a good young team, and I thought when I go to those games with Doc, he was excited for this year, but so many of their players are, not playing Legion ball, so they don't even have a senior team. And the reason I asked that is because somebody told me Jackson wasn't going to have a senior Legion team, but I know the people over there who run that Tribe organization, and they run all kinds of grade levels. They're kind of like a feeder. So what it is, the Jackson Legion team is actually under the heading of the Tribe now.
Okay.
So that's how it is. Mark Lewis is still doing that. So I don't think anything's changed with their senior Legion team other than the fact it's now called the Tribe. But anyway, that's a little tidbit there.
Well, the Squirrels play a lot of Legion teams. I mean, they don't just play Babe Ruth teams or unaffiliated travel teams. They play them, but they also play a lot of Legion teams. So I'll find out more about the Tribe and whether or not it is the senior Legion team. And Mark Lewis has been doing it forever.
Oh, yeah, he's been doing it a long time.
Yeah, they play them every summer. Marty, this run by Little Rock, I'm sorry, man. I don't care who you are. There is no freaking way you could have seen them steamrolling their way through the OVC tournament and now playing today for a chance to go to a super regional. It is just an unbelievable story, and we use the word unbelievable a lot in sports, but I still do not believe that they are still alive.
It's incredible. I mean, we talked last week. We wrote them off in the OVC tournament. I figured, you never know, if they get a favorable, matchup after they lose to LSU, maybe they win. And then, so they beat Rhode Island. As Kramer would say about the beauty pageants, Rhode Island never wins anyway. So, So they beat the heck out of Rhode Island, and then they beat Dallas Baptist, and thinking, I mean, they have to beat LSU twice. You figure LSU will steamroll them in that first game, and then they beat LSU. I mean, they're literally one win away. I mean, they've actually, hard to believe, is in a better spot than SEMO was in last year when they went to the regional final, because they had to win. They had to win twice. Little Rock now has done one of the wins, and I'm thinking, how could you wouldn't even be stunned now if that would happen. I mean, it's been phenomenal. I read, I think on the Little Rock website, that according to the RPI, because Little Rock's RPI was so low and LSU's was so high, that's the biggest regional upset ever as far as the RPI difference goes.
Well, I know coming in, Marty, of every team in the tournament, Little Rock by far had the worst RPI.
Yeah, I think according to Little Rock website, they were 243 and LSU was 10, and that's. But you mentioned, man, I've been following Murray State some, and their first two games they won were just wild. I mean, I don't know how many of those you got to see. Man.
I watched both of them.
Yeah, I mean, they were hanging on by a thread, and somehow they find a way to pull it out. And obviously, it wasn't that surprising that Mississippi steamrolled them last night, but, this last game deal, I mean, you're going to unload everything in your pitching staff. You mentioned what Little Rock, I mean, they're trotting pitchers out there that, I mean, I don't know, maybe that some of the announcers have talked about in the OVC tournament, they had a lot of injuries. I didn't follow it close enough. Maybe some of their guys have gotten healthy. I don't know, but it's just for the SEMO fans who saw that last regular season series and then saw, what Little Rock did going into the OVC tournament, 13 out of 14. Everybody's got to be stunned. But, hey, great for the OVC.
I got to admit, Don Sean was watching that first Ole Miss Murray State game with me, and I just could not believe how biased the announcers were. When am I ever rooting for Murray State in anything? But I just couldn't believe. I mean, Ole Miss would score a run, and they would act like the College World Series has just ended, and Ole Miss won it, and Murray State gets a go-ahead RBI, and it's almost like a mausoleum in the broadcast booth. It was so freaking slanted. So I was, and trust me, I know what a slanted broadcast sounds like. If you're doing ESPN like that, man, you got to call that stuff down the middle. What was it, 2 years ago when SIU ended up beating SEMO on that late touchdown pass? I got roasted by some SEMO fans. They thought I got too excited when the Salukis scored. But if you're calling it for ESPN, I mean, they send you a memo and tell you, I don't want to hear you say we or us or any of that thing. You're working on our behalf, and you call it down the middle. And I thought it was so weak. I'll be interested to see what kind of a broadcast it is today. But you got to think there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be pulling for the underdogs here. And, I just gave the success that the Missouri Valley Conference has had in regionals recently, Marty. Evansville last year, Indiana State 2 years ago, Dallas Baptist before that. They've had a history lately of winning regionals. Oh, yeah, they definitely have. And,
Murray State obviously is going to be an underdog, but, this NCAA baseball tournament has been so crazy so far. I heard Mike talking about it earlier, kind of like almost a March Madness deal. You mentioned with Vanderbilt and Texas going down, and that I was watching the end of that Vanderbilt game where that ground rule double kept Vandy from tying the game. It was there's some rules, that I always have thought, maybe use umpire discretion, but that's the rule. And so as soon as I saw it go over the fence, I'm thinking, well, Vandy hasn't tied it yet. Amazing.
Yeah, it looked like they were coming back, and they were going to do it. and it did not happen. And then, I was rooting for Wright State, but, when the mid-majors play the bigger boys, and Louisville is a bigger boy, and then that's why today when it's Little Rock matching up here with LSU and then Murray State against Ole Miss, like SEMO versus Kansas State last year in the regional final, the mid-major team oftentimes runs out of pitching. The Red Hawks ran out of pitching last year, and that's my fear for Murray State and Little Rock today. So, man, you better be close to putting up double-digit runs in a game like this.
No doubt. And last year, SEMO would have actually had to beat K-State twice, so they would have needed so much pitching. But, the big boys stockpile the arms where the little ones don't have that luxury. So this is always exciting, though, when you just never know what's going to happen.
Man, and I know that you like the college softball, too. The controversy toward the end of that UCLA-Tennessee game, it was fitting that Tennessee went ahead and won the game. We explained, I read verbatim what the pool umpire told the press, and that it would have just been a warning, and that the play ended up not even being reviewable, but clearly the umpires didn't know the rule that it wasn't reviewable, or they wouldn't have gone to video review. But it took 13 minutes. It appears they got it right because it would have been a warning to UCLA. They still would have got credit for the 2-run homer. But now you've got the 4-time defending champion, Oklahoma, and then Tennessee coming off that emotional win. They've got to win twice today or their season's over.
Yeah, Texas Tech is an interesting story. They've never been, I think, overly great in softball, but they got the National Player of the Year. I think she might have been the Canada girl. She transferred from Stanford. She's just a stud, pitching and hitting, and she just propelled Texas Tech to places where I don't know they've ever been. If not, it's been a long time.
I mean, they're 52-12, Marty. Texas Tech softball, 52-12.
Yeah. Did you see early in the tournament when that Tennessee pitcher was mowing down Oklahoma, and then Oklahoma does that so much. Girl hit I guess it was a 3-run shot walk-off. Did you see that, Eric?
Yeah. I mean, Oklahoma has been flirting with fire. I mean, they've done that the last couple of years, right?
Yeah. And this was a year, they had to replace so many people, but they're still kicking. And like we've talked about before, softball is a sport where you can run that same pitcher out a lot if you want to. I think Texas Tech is using the same pitcher every time. So some good action going today for sure.
So the Cardinals dropped 2 of 3, Marty, over the weekend at the Texas Rangers. Now they get ready for a big 9-game homestand. Mike and I were talking about potentially going to a 6-man rotation here when you have just one more off day in the month of June. They did that a little earlier. Steven Matz actually has 2 starts this year under his belt. You think that's something the Cardinals are going to discuss?
For sure, because I think that was their plan going into the season. The parts of their schedule where there was basically hardly any off days, that's what they use that 6-man rotation for. I don't think they don't want to do it when everybody can, have a little rest. But, yes, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
And we hear the Kansas City Royals are calling up their top prospect, Jack Castiglione. He's already, Marty, hit 15 home runs between AA and AAA, and we're still pretty early in the season. Meanwhile, the Royals rank dead last in Major League Baseball in home runs. There have been Royals fans for a couple of weeks saying, get him up here, man. Let's give him a look. So I'll be very interested to see how Castiglione does. Yeah, I mean, he was a two-way guy. He's not pitching anymore. He's just focused on swinging the bat. But, anytime you can bring up a high-profile prospect, I'm all about it. Get a look at him.
Oh, man, remember how he was a monster at Florida, pitching and hitting. He was kind of inconsistent as a pitcher, but he was throwing, upper 90s, so probably good move. I guess they're just using him as a hitter. But, man, he hit some unbelievable bombs at Florida.
All right. Before the NBA Finals gets underway, we got to sit around till Thursday before we see any more basketball. But Wednesday is when the Stanley Cup Finals get underway. Panthers and Oilers rematch of the Stanley Cup Finals and went 7 games last year. Does it diminish anything for you that it's going to be a rematch, Marty? I mean, what about the people who say, we just saw this?
Not for me. I think it should be a great series. I mean, and how often? I don't think you see that many. Well, I might be wrong about this. I know in a lot of sports you don't see many rematches at all. I think it's going to be good.
And then the Indiana Pacers put those annoying Knick fans out of their misery as they took care of the Knickerbockers. And right now, as of this morning on Thursday, Oklahoma City 9.5-point favorite over the Indiana Pacers, Game 1 in OKC. Your thoughts on this NBA Finals matchup?
Yeah, I think the Thunder are decided favorite as far as the series goes. Man, they've made believers out of me. I'd be surprised if they don't lose it, but if they don't win it. But you had the Pacers all the way here, and they're in the finals, so I think you deserve several kudos for that. I mean, not just winning a series or two, they're in the finals. That's impressive.
Boy, and if you're Indiana, they've got so many guys that can score. You've got an historically great statistical defense in Oklahoma City. But I think as we saw between Indiana and the Knicks in Game 5, when Halliburton, he was coming off that perfect game that he had in Game 4, and then in Game 5, he laid an egg and only had 8 points. If you're the Pacers, you can't afford for your top 2 players, Tyrese Halliburton or Pascal Siakam, to have any down games if you're going to compete with the Thunder.
No doubt, because they have guys that's stepping up all the time, and seems like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, seems like he rarely has a down game. I mean, that guy is incredible. And I'd say maybe the Thunder in 6.
You know what's interesting about the defense, the on-the-ball defense, and they are going to be facing defense, 75 feet up the floor, something they did not see from the New York Knicks. And they are young, and they are fast, and they are athletic. I'm talking about the Thunder. And should you find a way to work your way actually into the paint, then there's Chet Holmgren waiting for you at the rim, Marty. It's an imposing defense.
Yeah, they've got a little bit of everything. I mean, the shooting and the defense has been, tremendous all year. So they're definitely going to be tough to beat.
I am rooting for the Pacers. I think it would be, and if it just comes down to coaching as well. I mean, hey, Rick Carlisle has a title, Marty. I mean, he was the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks when they won it all. I mean, this guy has won the Larry O'Brien Trophy before.
Yeah, he's been a great coach for a long time, and people probably don't know. I believe he played back in the day for the Celtics. So he was a pretty good player, too. I don't think he was ever a star, but he's a pretty good player.
All right, so what's your viewing going to be today? The softball gets going at 11. The baseball gets going about 2 o'clock.
I got some stuff going on, but I'm definitely going to try to catch a lot of the baseball, some of the softball. It's kind of too much to catch everything, but I'll have all the devices working.
All right, what did we forget, Marty?
Okay, I want to mention a couple things. We talked about SEMO track. SEMO had 2 athletes qualify for nationals, Peyton Lewis in the discus, Luke Hatfield-Jackson in the high jump. Peyton Lewis has been setting just records all year. And I also want to mention, and a sad note, everybody's friend, favorite person, Barb Kinsey passed away. Man, she was involved with SEMO and SEMO Athletics for years and years and years, and nicest lady you could ever meet. I mean, always had a smile on her face. She was just a joy to be around.
We're losing too many of them, Marty.
I know it. Seems like they come in bunches for sure, but anyway, condolences to everybody who knew, and she touched their lives.
All right, Marty. Very nice that you mentioned that, and we will talk to you next week, unless we get some breaking stuff. That we may have to have a makeshift short notice Marty party.
All right, Eric. Sounds good. See you.
All right. That is the Love Shack. Marty Michow. Say hello to the radiant and ravishing Dawn Shawn, coming off a 12-hour shift today. Wanted to go to the Squirrels game tonight. Not going to be able to make it. Hope she has a wonderful day. Squirrels play a doubleheader at 5. They've had 6 games rained out already. We'll see if they get their games in tonight. Stay tuned. Clinton and Friends coming up. Enjoy your Monday, everybody.